Welcome to the Guitar Department. My name is Joe Alton and I'm your host. On this episode we're going to learn a new song, Midnight Rider by the Allman Brothers. We're going to discuss the difference between a major and a minor pentatonic scale for those of you who are starting to solo. We have our lick of the week, and then our pedal of the week is the Keeley Compressor Plus. Welcome to the Guitar Department. The song Midnight Rider by the Allman Brothers is based on the D chord. And the way it works is you only finger the pointer finger on the second fret of the third string, the A, and then your ring finger will take the D on the second string, the third fret of the second string. A normal D chord would have the bottom string, also the first string, on the second fret with the middle finger, but we're going to leave that note off, and we're going to use our middle finger for something else throughout this, this main riff. So when we play this chord, it's technically a D power chord. You're going to play those three strings, the D chord, or the D string, the A that is on the G string, and the D that is on the B string. So the fourth, third, and second strings. And the reason we're playing this power chord up here instead of down here, where it would be played in a traditional rock song, we're going to use our A string to carry the rest of the riff, and that's going to be using our middle finger too. So we're going to start with a 0, then we're going to play a 3 on that string, then we're going to hit this chord twice, and then we go back to the 3, and then back to that chord again. And then there's about 4 beats of open space between that and the next version of the riff. So the whole thing sounds like this. Now, you don't actually tap the guitar. I'm just keeping the rhythm for you. The way you would count it after the initial riff. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, of course, I'm playing it probably about 3/4 speed, so real speed will sound something like this. Now, taking a look at the right hand, on the 0, the first 0, I'm plucking downward, and then I have an upstroke on the 3, and then I'm going 2 downstrokes for the chord itself. Now, you don't necessarily have to do that upstroke. You could do this all downstroke. Down, 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 down. For me, that's a little bit harder, but experiment with it both ways because you might find it easier one way than the other. Now, that riff happens 4 times at the very beginning. Then the rest of the band comes in. It happens a few more times. And then when the lyrics start, that happens 4 more times just on its own. Most of the song is actually just that one riff. And then when it gets to the hook, or the chorus part, you play 2 different chords. And the first one is a G minor bar chord. And so it covers 2 whole measures, and you're going to strum this chord down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. Just like that. Down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. Notice also that it's got a bit of an accent on those beats on 2 and 4. The down-ups are a little bit heavier than the downs themselves. The chord is fingered with a flattened first finger across the 3rd fret, and then you have your 3rd finger on the 5th fret of the 5th string, and pinky finger on the 5th fret of the 4th string. And you might notice I'm using my middle finger to help reinforce the bar. Now, the bar, the first finger being flattened, is covering all 6 strings, but it's only holding down 4 of the 6 strings, because these 2 fingers are carrying the other 2 notes. So we've got the 3rd fret on the top string, and then the 3rd string, 2nd string, and 1st string are all being held down on the 1st fret or the 3rd fret also. So having the middle finger clamping down with it sort of saves me a little bit of tension on my pointer finger, trying to squeeze between my thumb and forefinger like that. It helps a lot, actually. And also, I have my arm over here bracing just a little bit on the top end of the body of the guitar, which helps me also brace the chord, especially on the bottom half, these bottom 3 strings. If you pull back, that puts a little extra pressure on the bottom 3 with the back of the finger. So we do that chord for 8 total beats. Down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, and then we move on to our C chord. Now our C chord, in this case, normally a C chord would just be an open C chord like that, and you could certainly play that, but the way they do it is they cover the top 2 strings on the 3rd fret, so we have a G and a C, and then the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings are held down on the 5th fret. Now to do that, I'm using 1 finger. You could do it with 3 fingers. For me, that's a little bit harder, just because of the gap between these 2 fingers and the fact that the middle finger can't really get any closer to the fret with the other 2 fingers there. But if you have trouble flattening your pinky or ring finger, it might be the easier way to do it that way. For me, I use my pointer and ring finger. And we do the exact same strum pattern, just down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, and then we're back to our main riff. And that takes us all the way back to the beginning of the next verse. We have 4 more of those, and it leads us back into that main verse. So the whole structure of the song, starting from the lyrics, will be 4 of this, then G minor, C, and then back to our main riff. Then the whole thing repeats. After that second repeat, we have a solo section, and then the solo, the rhythm parts for the solo start again with that main riff. And he just solos over that for, I believe, another 4 bars. And then we end up on the next new section. And the only thing that's different here, this is the only new part of the song, we have our C chord, just like we played it before, 8 total beats, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. And then we're going to move the whole chord down 2 frets to the 1st and 3rd frets, which will give us a B flat chord. And then back to our main theme, our main riff. And that is how you play Midnight Rider by the Allman Brothers. So now I'd like to take a second to identify the differences between a minor pentatonic and a major pentatonic. And part of the theme here is that the song Midnight Rider uses what's called a major pentatonic for its solo. We're going to start with the minor pentatonic, though, and to do that, we're going to start in the key of A minor. And the minor pentatonic is a scale, it's a minor scale that takes out 2 of the notes from the natural minor scale. So if I played a natural minor scale, it would sound like this. So we have 7 notes, and the 8th one is the same as the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. and then we could do that across another octave. What the minor pentatonic does, or what any pentatonic does, is it takes out 2 of those notes and leaves us with only 5 notes to play. In this case, we're taking out the 2nd note and then the 6th note. So we play our 1st note, skip the 2nd, go to the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and then skip the 6th and go straight to the 7th. And then we're back at the 1st note again, so it happens again through the next octave. What that gives us for notes is the 1st fret, the 5th fret, the 8th fret, back to the 5th fret, 7th fret, 5, 7 again, 5, 7 again. On the 2nd string, it'll be back to 5, 8. And the string is 2 notes per string, or the scale is 2 notes per string, so it makes it easier to play, less notes to keep track of, and you really can't miss with it with the right chords. So if I play a couple chords in the key of A minor, in this case it was an A minor bar chord to a D minor bar chord, all of those notes sound great over those 2 chords. Now, sometimes you can play that over a major chord, and that gives you a little bit more bluesy sound. You're playing a minor scale over a major chord, and that's really the appeal of the minor pentatonic, is that when you play a major chord, you can get this bluesy sound by dancing around that 3rd, in this case the C sharp. In the minor pentatonic, we play a C and a D, but not a C sharp. So we have the notes that surround that 3rd, but we don't actually play the 3rd itself unless you want that tonality. More often than not, though, you leave it out, and it just has a bluesier sound over that major chord. But what if that's not the tonality we're going for? Here's where this gets interesting. We're going to take this whole scale pattern, and we're just going to move it down 3 frets. So instead of 5, 8, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 8, 5, 8, it will be 2, 5, 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 5, 2, 5. And that gives us this sound. Now, technically speaking, what I just played was an F sharp minor pentatonic. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this F sharp, this 1st note, off. The note happens in other places in the chord or in the scale, but I'm going to treat this note, the A, as the root. And that makes this an A major pentatonic. Now it's based off of the A major scale, which would be like that. But again, we're going to take 2 of those notes out. We're going to play the 1st, the 2nd, and the 3rd. We're going to take out the 4th. We're going to play the 5th and the 6th, and take out the 7th. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. And then that takes us back to the root. And over the A chord, that gives us a lot different sort of tonality. So I'm playing the A chord as an open chord now because it's a little easier to reach this this major pentatonic than it is to come from down here. So as long as I treat this note and this note and this note as the root of the scale, I'm playing it as a major pentatonic. And you can hear the difference in the sound. Both of those scales have A as the root, but one of them just sounds a little bluesier. And the other one just sounds a little more folky, maybe country sounding, you might describe it as. It's not really bound to those styles of music. It's used all over the place, but that's the way a lot of people think of it. So now, in order to demonstrate the difference between these two scales, I'm going to have our producer Bryce, off camera here, play a couple of chords for me. He's going to play an A and a D chord. And I'm going to start with the minor pentatonic. Go ahead whenever you're ready. And now, I'm going to have him play the exact same chords, the A and the D, exactly the way he was playing them, but I'm going to switch from the A minor pentatonic to the A major pentatonic. Now, again, all I'm doing is moving the exact same fingering, the same finger pattern, down 3 frets. And that's the difference between a major and a minor pentatonic. The tonality is just a little bit different and gives you a slightly different sound. For our lick of the week this week, I'm going to do a lick that was sort of inspired by the solo to Midnight Rider. Now, Midnight Rider is played in the key of D major, which would put us clear up here. So for the purposes of this lick, I'm going to play it down here in the key of A major pentatonic. And the lick sounds like this. And here it is one more time. And so what I'm actually doing is carrying a lick with mostly these 4 notes. Bending the 4th fret here on the 3rd string to sort of get that major 3rd sound that you would get from an A major chord. And then coming back down to the root of the A. But in the middle, I have my pinky planted on these bottom 2 strings on the 5th fret. Now this is a pretty common technique amongst country and folk players. You'll do the bend, and then you sort of upstroke on these 2 strings. So you get this sort of almost a steel guitar type of tone. And then you keep those ringing out while you play the rest of it. So keep the pinky planted. And when you come back to it, you sort of overpluck just a little bit, and you can do this throughout the lick if you want to get these extra strings in there. And again, I'm just using these same 4 notes. Landing back on that A, but I'm doing it with this E and this A under my pinky. That last little bend has a bit of a stop on it, and I do have that pinky note in there. And then I let go of it and just drop down to the 1st finger on the A. We end up with an A here and an E in the pinky. And these notes just sort of sustain through the whole thing. Now, in the song Midnight Rider, again, they have it in the key of D major. So instead of playing it here, we would move it up all the way to the D. Now the D is both the note under my first finger and the note under my pinky. So that's how I'm identifying where to play this same pattern. But in that key, it would sound like this. And it's actually a little bit easier to play down here for a few reasons. One, the frets are closer together, and two, it's easier to bend when you're in the middle of the string than it is down here close to the bridge. So if you're having trouble playing it in one key, you might just move it up a little bit. You could also move it clear up to the key of G here. But wherever you play it, the trick is really in keeping that pinky planted so that you get these bottom notes. You can just see it sort of has that country sound. One more thing about it that I want to mention that I'm doing before we stop on this, and that is where you're picking on the string. If you pick towards the middle of the string, just between, and this on this Telecaster, it's between the two pickups. It gives you a nice full tonality. But if you're looking for a little bit more treble and a little bit more of that country sort of Nashville sound, you might bring the pick all the way down closer to where the bridge pickup is in this case. And you can hear the difference there just by moving the pick from the middle down towards the bridge. A little less full down here, but a lot more treble, a lot more high end. And that's our lick of the week. And now it's time for us to enter the tone zone with our pedal of the week. And this week, we've got a good one. It is the Keeley Compressor Plus. Now, compression is sort of its own strange effect. It has, what it does, it's short for dynamic range compression, and what it actually does is it takes your volume and cuts the high end as well as boosting the low end. So if you play something softly, it's going to amplify it a little bit, and if you play something really loud, it's going to dampen it a little bit. Now, the obvious question is why? And the answer is to even out all of your tones as you play both chords and solo. So it also gives a nice little effect too. Here, let me click it on. Here's my clean sound. And then if I click this on, you can see my settings are basically flat. We've got our blend, our sustain, and our tone sort of at 12 o'clock. And then I've got the level, which is our volume, flat to my unaffected, my dry signal. You can hear it has just a little bit of pop before each note. And that pop, if I turn that off, isn't really there in the dry signal. So it has this effect of giving a little bit of extra twang to it. It's great for mimicking an acoustic tone with an electric guitar. Which, if I were to do that seriously, I would switch this up to the mid so that I have both pickups activated, and I would roll the tone back just a little bit. And you can see that has a lot more of an acoustic feel to it. Still definitely an electric mimicking an acoustic, but it's great for that purpose. Another thing that it does, if I turn all this back, it has a sustain knob. Now, if I click this off and I hit a note and just let it ring, you can hear it starts to die out as it normally would, as you would expect. And then if I click it back on and hit that same note, still dying out, but it does it a little bit slower. I can actually still hear the note in there. If I turn this up, you can hear right away my background noise sort of takes over. It's compressing the signal, and it's sort of, it's going to intensify it as it starts to fade. So it'll boost it as it's fading out. You can almost hear the moment where the effect takes over the domination over the original note. So that's something that if you were playing some lead tones, if you had a distortion pedal, which I've only brought this today, but if you have a distortion pedal, that really helps with those soaring long notes that you might end up playing. We've also got a tone knob, which is going to give us either a darker feel, or if I turn that to the right, clockwise, it sort of helps with that trebly tone, especially if you're looking for that Nashville sort of sound. And then the last one, this one's pretty cool too. We have a blend knob. Now, some compressors don't have this, but the Keeley Compressor Plus has this knob that allows us to, if I turn it all the way down, it's as though the pedal isn't even there. If I hit all the way up to as high as it'll go, now we're only hearing the compressed signal, which is great, but I can control how much of the two signals I want to have. So if I want there to be a little bit more compression, I just turn this knob clockwise, and it adds a little more pop, it adds a little more sustain. It affects everything on the knobs, everything that I have adjusted. It just gives me a little bit more or a little bit less, which is a nice way to be able to dial in your pedal. And that's our pedal of the week, the Keeley Compressor Plus. Well, thank you for joining us on the Guitar Department. I'm Joe Alton. I've been your host. I want to thank our producer, Bryce Jarrett, and our cameraman, Jason. And I want to thank Reben Music for giving us a place to shoot this show and for supplying this beautiful Player Series Telecaster, as well as the Fender Newporter that I was playing earlier, the acoustic. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/The Guitar Department, and please join us next time right here on The Guitar Department.